Hello YouTube, Sandre here. Today I'm going to respond to a video made recently by a YouTube channel called In a Nutshell. This is a very big YouTube channel and one of the most popular scientific YouTube channels out there. You may very well have seen one of their videos yourself. However, one thing that I'm noticing from these content creators regarding scientific videos on YouTube is that they all tend to move towards the same general trend. The science that used to be very much valid in their videos have now become more streamlined and more popularistic. Basically what I'm saying is, I'm noticing how so-called scientific channels on YouTube are starting to engage more and more in edutainment rather than primarily education. What this usually leads to is them getting things wrong, and this is no exception. The video I'm responding to deals with why we humans age and if we can stop aging, and whether or not we should. The first point I'm going to counter is this claim.
The most effective way to treat a disease is to prevent it. It saves many more lives if you stop 1 million people from smoking than coming up with better chemotherapies. So why not put a halt to the cause of all disease, the process of aging? In a nutshell, aging is caused by physics and not biology. Think of cars. Parts wear down from rubbing and grinding. Metal rusts, filters get plugged, rubber cracks. Our bodies are worn down by trillions of tiny physical processes. Oxygen, radiation from the sun, our metabolism. Our bodies have many mechanisms to repair this damage, but over time they become less effective. So our bones and muscles weaken, our skin wrinkles, our immune system gets weaker. We lose our memory and our senses diminish. There's no such thing as dying of old age. We all die because one of our important parts breaks. The older we get, the more damaged and fragile we become until one or multiple diseases take over and kill us.
This is simply not true. Yes, wear and tear in DNA in humans has already been demonstrated to be a big part of why we age, but it doesn't appear to be the only reason we age. We already know that there is at least one genetic component to human aging, your telomeres. A telomere is a region of repetitive nucleotide sequences at the ends of chromosomes. They protect the end of the chromosomes from deterioration. The thing is though, during chromosome replication, these enzymes that duplicate DNA cannot continue their duplication all the way to the end of a chromosome. So every time there's duplication, the end of each chromosome is shortened. And you lose a little bit of your telomeres every time this happens in the body. Now, the constant depletion of your telomeres is one major reason as to why we age. So already we do know that there is a genetic component to aging. It's not just all physics. Not only that, we already know that specific genes in other organisms play a huge role in aging. For instance, there's a worm called C. elegans. And researchers have found that genes affected by aging have all been controlled by at least 3 other genes. This is one of the organisms where we definitely do know the genetic context as to which they age. In mice, we know of 126 genes involved in aging at least. The next claim I'm going to counter in their video deals with the idea that we could extend life to eternity, for instance, and whether or not we really should. This is not just going to be entirely of a scientific response from my end, but I will also delve a little bit into philosophy.
But first, if we could, should we end aging? Is this a good idea? The end of aging or life extension makes many people uncomfortable. We're born, are young, become older, and then we die. This has been the natural order for literally all of human history. And getting old is a good thing, right? We celebrate the idea of living long enough to experience old age. We even call them the golden years. But the reality is that everybody wants to become old, but nobody wants to be. A 90-year-old who stopped aging would die anyway after a few years. Too much damage has been done to his internal machinery. There are already too many surfaces for disease to attack. Instead, the concept of life extension promises to end diseases and with them, the end of a fixed maximum age. We don't know how much we could prolong our lives. We might make every human healthy to the currently accepted maximum age of around 120, or we might stop biological aging and disease indefinitely. Nobody knows at this point what's possible. Okay, but even if we could achieve that, should we? Well, life extension is really just another phrase for medicine. All the doctors are doing is trying to prolong life and minimize suffering. The vast majority of healthcare resources are spent on the consequences of aging. Nearly half of your lifetime healthcare costs will be spent during your senior years and another third during middle age. We are actually already trying to prolong life with our current medicine, we're just doing it very inefficiently. Trying to stop aging from happening is not less natural than transplanting a heart, treating cancer with chemotherapy, using antibiotics or vaccines. Nothing humans do nowadays is purely natural anymore, and we enjoy the highest standard of living ever as a consequence of that. What we're doing right now is waiting until it's too late and the machine is failing. And then we use the vast majority of our resources trying to fix it as well as we can, while it breaks down even further. But life extension still feels hubristic. Most people assume that they will want to die once they reach a certain age, and this might still be true. The idea of avoiding death entirely is off-putting for many. Take better care of our planet if we knew we would be around longer. If we could work for 150 years, how much time would we spend figuring out what we're good at? How much more time would we spend learning? Would the intense feeling of pressure and stress many of us are feeling right now go away or get worse? So, asking again, if you could choose how long to live right now, in good health and with your friends and family, what's your personal answer? What would you like your future to look like?
No. There is no way you could ever live forever, and I'm going to explain to you why. Even if you were to prevent people from ever dying on their own accord as their bodies were slowly but surely shutting down, people would still die at some point. You have simply just guaranteed that instead of people dying of so-called old age, they are gonna die in a horrible accident or be murdered instead. And should we stop aging completely? I would argue no. Not only is there a logical reason as to why organisms age, just think of population size. You can't have an organism that only has offspring, but the parents never die. This would be a sure way to ensure that resources would not exist for the offspring. It doesn't matter how advanced your civilization is, there will always be a maximum number of individuals that can exist within any civilization, due to the need of dividing resources. If you really want a population where at least the majority would technically be able to live forever, you would greatly have to restrict the amount of people who could be parents and have offspring. Most people would probably not be okay with that, and why should they? One of the things that brings people joy and a sense of purpose is to raise their offspring. Humans don't need to live forever to leave an everlasting imprint in our universe. We already do in our offspring. The vessel by which DNA exists within may not live forever, but the DNA itself is eternal. This kind of hubris is something that I find kind of worrisome. This absolute naivete when it comes to ideas such as transhumanism, the idea that humans can evolve beyond their basic biological being. It's nonsensical, it's delusional, and it could potentially be dangerous. Now, I don't think you can ever make someone live forever, not just because of the reasons I previously mentioned, but I don't think you can ever stop aging completely. Even if you were to account for the genetic factor, like in a nutshell pointed out before in the video, I think that eventually something will happen to allow wear and tear to win out in the end. You really can't fight entropy. And besides, the universe itself seems to go towards a heat death. Would you really want to stick around to see that happen? Thank you all for watching this video. Bye!